We're live. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg. And I didn't do a video yesterday because I was tired and I really didn't have much to talk about. But this morning, getting up, I was watching the news online as I normally do, and I noticed there was an exchange going on between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada and member of Parliament for the Tory Party, the Conservative Party, Melissa Lantsman. They had an exchange of words, and I will play you the clip and comment with another video and comment in its greater context. So give me a second here. We will get started momentarily.
Hopeful vision for public life isn't a naive dream. It could be a powerful force for change. If Canadians are to trust their government needs to trust Canadians. Those are the words of the Prime Minister in 2015. These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same Prime Minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency. So, Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister lose his way? When did it happen?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to remind the honourable members, including the Honourable Right Honourable Prime Minister, to use words that are not inflammatory in the House. And that's for both sides. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Unbecoming as a Prime Minister. It's been 48 hours that the government went from doing nothing to a national emergency. 48 hours into using the measures. 48 hours without providing Parliament with a justification. So my question is simple. When will the Prime Minister admit that he's lost control of the situation, that he's lost control of his country, that he's lost control of his caucus, and that he's lost control of his leadership?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, on the question of caucus and support for these blockades, the Conservative politicians need to make a choice. Are they for the blockades, or are they for communities, our economy, and regular Canadians? The member from Provencher pointed out about the emergency blockade, the illegal blockades. He has never seen such a patriotic display in Canada. There's nothing patriotic about hurting fellow Canadians. The member from Grand Prairie Mackenzie claims that the economy is not being held hostage, all the while hundreds of millions of dollars were being lost in trade due to blockades. And the member from Sarnia-Lambton doesn't believe her constituents need guaranteed access now to the Blue Water Bridge. Mr. Speaker, we stand with Canadians.
I am a strong Jewish woman and a member of this House and a descendant of Holocaust survivors, and I have never it's never been singled out, and I have never been made to feel less, except for today when the Prime Minister accused me of standing with swastikas. I think he owes me an apology. I'd like an apology, and I think he owes an apology to all members of this House.
I want to encourage all members to be as judicious as possible when using words in this chamber and to reflect on what they say on all cases.
All right. Reason I play that because, of course, earlier today, looks like there was an exchange of words between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Melissa Lantsman, who's a conservative member of the House from, what's it, Thornhill, or I think they call them ridings. In Britain, they call them constituencies. We call them congressional districts here. Needless to say, that what happened there was his choice of words. And I do have a problem with accusing your political opponents, associating people who are your political opponents with swastikas, and calling people, needlessly calling people who disagree with you as a Nazi sympathizer when it is really not appropriate. I don't think that, even though the truckers probably have an ideology that's alien to mine, I don't believe in sitting there smearing everybody as some sort of neo-Nazi. And in that regard, maybe I would say that Justin Trudeau was irresponsible. However, when it comes to the ideology on the opposite side of that paradigm in Canada, a conservative MP who happens to be Jewish decided to go and accuse Justin Trudeau of being anti-Semitic because because of her position on the truckers, and that is just as irresponsible. I do not think that I have my problem with Justin Trudeau. I have my problems with Justin Trudeau. I have joked. But even though I have joked, and I'm still serious when I joke about it, I have associated Beto O'Rourke of the United States with Justin Trudeau of Canada. They're each other's counterpart in many ways. I mean, Justin Trudeau would be a corporate Democrat if he was living here in the United States, and what's his name? Beto O'Rourke would be a stand for nothing centrist with the Liberal Party in Canada. I know that for sure, just judging by the character of both men there. But I want to add to this: while people can sit there and denounce Justin Trudeau and accuse him of being anti-Semitic, just as partisan smear merchants, I'm going to play you a clip here, and I'm going to go and rebuttal and share some words. Hold tight, one moment as I get everything set up. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and do this.
Israel, despite an explosion of anti-Semitic attacks in America, Jewish people targeted from coast to coast after the recent fighting in the Middle East. Democrats like Bernie Sanders keep going after Israel.
The United States of America has got to be leading the world in bringing people together, not simply supplying weapons to kill children in Gaza. Our job is not simply to put more and more military support for Israel. It is to bring people together.
And after days of waiting, President Biden and Vice President Harris are finally getting around to condemning the anti-Semitic violence, both taking to Twitter to call it, quote, despicable. Juan, do you agree with Bernie Sanders that the Biden administration is supplying weapons to kill children in Gaza?
I don't think they're intending to cause violence against civilians, but I think that's the argument, Jesse. I mean, to my mind, we have to be very clear here and not confuse anti-Semitism with legitimate criticism or debate about Israeli policies. That's a separate issue. It's not anti-Semitic to say I differ with Israel's policies. You have debate among Jewish people, including Bernie Sanders, about what Israel is doing, how it conducts its policies. You have, AIPAC versus J Street in terms of the Jewish American community taking different positions. So there's nothing anti-Semitic about criticizing Israel. I think that the larger issue here is, where do we go as an American people with regard to this violence that we've seen in the streets? It's reprehensible. It is to be condemned by every side. I don't care if it's anti-Semitic violence against Jewish people. I don't care if it's anti-Muslim violence. I don't care if it's anti-white, anti-black, or, those people who want to say, Chinese people brought COVID here and they're attacking the Asians in larger numbers. All of it tears at us as Americans, and I think we all need to stand together in opposition to that kind of behavior. I will say one last thing about Israel, though. I think there's a generational divide. You can start to see it now in the poll numbers about Israel that didn't exist previous. Everybody just, wanted to support Israel. They were so vulnerable. I think Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu better be aware of the fact that there are more and more Americans who are critical of Israeli policy.
I haven't seen that, but your point about Israel being vulnerable.
Okay. There's enough of that. So now, why did I bring a news clipping for almost a year ago into this discussion regarding Justin Trudeau and Melissa Lantsman? Because when you watch that news clipping from Fox, the premise was, and one of the few times I'm going to go and say Juan Williams was okay, because he's usually their doormat on Fox News. But the premise of right there on Fox was that Bernie Sanders was a quote unquote Jew hater. That was the premise. How insulting. If you want to be fair and say, well, Justin Trudeau associating the woman with swastikas at the truck rally was irresponsible, over the top. It's just as irresponsible and over the top to say that Bernie Sanders is some kind of quote unquote Jew hater and anti-Semite because he criticizes some of the bullshit policies of the previous Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. And so, there'll be people like, oh, how dare you criticize Benjamin Netanyahu? You should be worshiping him. That's what the right wing wants you to do. And these same right wingers talk shit about Pope Francis when he addressed the joint session of Congress several years ago. But when it came to Benjamin Netanyahu, they went and they were like, you better go and praise this guy, or we're going to denounce you as an anti-Semite. Even Rand Paul was heavily criticized for not putting a lot of heart and soul into polite applause for Benjamin Netanyahu's speech and everything. And anyway, but getting back to Bernie Sanders, how insulting, because yes, one can say Melissa Lantsman having family that died in the Holocaust and all of that, and that's horrible. What her family went through, it is horrible what her family went through. Here's the thing: these motherfuckers on Fox, do they even know that Bernie Sanders' father was a Polish Jew that escaped the Nazis when Germany came into Poland in 1939? That Bernie Sanders almost did not exist. Of course, with these Fox News goons out there, they probably would have rather that Bernie Sanders not exist. But Bernie Sanders would not be alive today had his father not escaped. So, and to sit there and accuse Bernie Sanders of being an anti-Semite, and just because he criticized certain policies of Israel, I bet you that these people who criticized Bernie Sanders for visiting the Soviet Union in March of 1988 with his second wife, Jane, they probably don't even know. I'm talking about the neocons and the evangelicals that hates everything that Bernie Sanders stands for. They probably don't even know that Bernie Sanders in the 1960s spent some time living in a kibbutz in Israel. They probably don't even know what a kibbutz is. And for all the criticism that Israel deserves today, Bernie Sanders lived in a kibbutz, and a kibbutz is a socialist village. And a lot of these people don't even know that the country of Israel would not have existed had it not been for the Jewish Social Democrats and Jewish communists that lived in the kibbutz prior to the creation of Israel, that created the infrastructure for the country in the first place when Israel was established as a socialist state. But since the 1970s, Israel moved away from socialism, has moved toward theocracy, and they're trying to be for Israel what Islam is in Saudi Arabia and places like that. And they're trying to make it a theocratic state where the secular tradition is gone. And I oppose any religious state in existence. I don't care if it's a Christian state. I don't care if it's a Muslim state. And it's nothing against Christianity. It's nothing against Islam when I say that. And same thing goes for a Jewish state as far as religiosity is concerned. I support the concept of only secular states. And in today's conflict in the Middle East, I support no country over there, because every fucking nation in the Middle East have fucked things up, including Israel, including Saudi Arabia, including Iran, including Syria, including Yemen, Egypt, you name it. They all are fucked up equally in their own unique way. They are all fucked up. Whether it's Likud in Israel or whether it's Hamas in Gaza, they're all fucked up. Now, Bernie Sanders is correct that you should not go and discriminate against people because they're Palestinian. How the hell does that make you an anti-Semite? It does not make you an anti-Semite to wish for Palestinians to live without discrimination in Israel. I mean, what is so difficult about that? I mean, so, Israel needs to treat their Palestinians with equality and dignity and not discriminate against them, not create a separate infrastructure, and in some cases, even forbidding basic infrastructure in a country. I don't want to make this an Israeli-Palestinian topic, but how insulting what they did to Bernie Sanders in terms of that. But, the way you're going to hear the right wing talk about this, whether it's Fox News or whether it's talk radio or just they're going to go and lambaste Justin Trudeau in exactly the same way that they lambaste Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. And Jeremy Corbyn, for the record, is not an anti-Semite. He is not an anti-Semite, and it's irresponsible, it's vicious how they attacked him as such. So I just wanted to have that straightened out and all that. So, okay, so we have here a chat line. Progressive Rising Rights, doesn't Canada has a hate speech law? Well, one of the drawbacks about Canada over the U.S., where I think the U.S. is a little bit better, is regarding free speech. I hate hatred, and I don't respect people who hate, but as far as hate speech, I believe in free speech, and that includes the right for people to express hatred, but it does not give them the right to inflict harm, and there's a fine line to be drawn by that. That's just my perspective there. I know Canada has gun control. Canada's gun control is more strict than it is in the United States, but probably less strict than it is in the UK. And I just that's they sort of hit the middle ground in that regard. Let's see. The conservative Canada is Canada Republican, although less extreme. I have always said that the Liberal Party in Canada is a less shitty version of the Democrats here. The Conservative Party in Canada is a less shitty version of the Republicans here, and the NDP is the squad that got their shit together. Let's see here. All right, we have Justin Trudeau is Canada's Pete Buttigieg and John Ossoff. I totally accept that too. I really do. So anyway, if you all like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I am Willie Bragg. Remember, we're all Julian Assange. Take care.